Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Film Odyssey podcast. Me and my brother on a trek to find the best films ever made. And this week, we're talking about A Clockwork Orange. But before we begin, we'd like to give a shout out to the Film History, the History of Film podcast. We're going to be dropping the trailer somewhere along this episode, so listen out for that. But, Randy, A Clockwork Orange.
So I got like kind of a thing I want to get off my chest already.
Real quick.
My initial thoughts on the film.
Yes, for those that don't know, we finished watching these movies like 5 minutes before we record these episodes.
Yeah, and I don't think I've ever seen this film all the way through. I think I've seen every part of this movie
in some order.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think this is okay. Here, I got to make a food analogy because food analogies are the best analogies.
Yes.
We can't talk about anything without comparison on the show.
Correct. Everything's a spice or flavor.
This movie is like you go to a really fancy restaurant for the first time. I mean, like a $200 steak type of like real fancy shit for the first time, right? You know, you go there, you're with some people that you like kind of know, but you're not like super close to them. You know, you've been invited to like a business dinner.
Yes. You
go there, you know, it's a really nice place. All the staff is really nice. You know, the people are like, yeah, they're all right. You know, I could talk to these people for like the couple hours we have to sit at dinner. You're convinced by, you know, the person sitting next to you and the waiter's recommendation to get the halibut, you know, the $250 halibut.
Yes.
Or whatever, some really nice fish, you know, they bring it out, you get it to you, you take your bite and you're like, I never really saw myself as a fish man. I don't like this at all.
Oh.
Well, not at all. You're like, I can appreciate it.
You can appreciate it as an art.
I can appreciate, you know, it looks amazing. The presentation, everything here is really nice. But, can I eat this?
Okay. So.
Everything about the movie is great. Except it's not very watchable.
This has been called a disturbing film, and it has been said as a hard watch for a lot of reasons. It's also very controversial.
Yeah.
This is a very difficult film to have a casual watch of.
I think that's kind of how I feel about it. It's not a very casual movie in any sense.
Yeah.
Like, this movie demands to be poured over. Demands to be, like, really analyzed, you know. It's a demanding movie of its audience, and
it's also a very, I would say, a masterfully done film for what it is.
It's like all the cinematography, the sound design, the edit, like everything about this movie is masterfully crafted. But like here, let me reverse that analogy. It's like they bring, you know, like how they had the silver cover over the food, right?
Yeah.
They bring it out to you, and like everything has been so amazing at this point. The wine's great, all of this, and then they flip the thing up, and it's just like a little action figure giving you like two middle fingers. You know, I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? Everything was great up until this point, but the real meat of my meal here is giving me the bird.
The meat of your meal is the just enjoyment factor of the film, entertainment.
The meat there, like, because that, I mean, at its heart, at like the base of a medium is entertainment, right?
Yeah. I mean, you get into weird conversations of expression, artistic expression.
I know, like, the artistic expression, but like everybody's basic understanding of film is something you watch for enjoyment. Like, at its very base, like, when you were a kid, you didn't watch movies to analyze them.
Yeah.
You watch Toy Story because it's fun.
Yeah, the basics of, like, I guess, the art form or the medium of film is to watch it and enjoy it, or get something out of the watch.
Yeah.
I think you can get a lot out of this watch. Like, this film has meat, but it is something you can't... watching it casually, I think you were a psychopath.
Yeah.
If you put this on and being like, yo, I'm just gonna chill with the boys, have a couple brews, and watch A Clockwork Orange, and I'm like,
you're fucking psycho.
Your friends are psychopaths. Because I've heard people be like, Alex DeLarge is so cool, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, he is a fucking monster. And that's kind of the point of the movie, is to show...
style.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Like, Malcolm McDowell is the most charming motherfucker on the planet.
His character's, like, I think pretty well written.
Yeah.
Very well acted. But
Very.
it's just one of these things where it's like the whole movie is following like a abhorrent person. And I don't think I can really... This movie is done so well that I don't think I can like put it against it in anything other than, well, it just makes the movie not casually entertaining. But I don't... Like, this movie is good enough to where it's like, I don't think it's a mark against it.
It's intentional.
In any other category. I know it's intentional, but the intentionality there will still give it a mark in that category.
Yes, I get you. I get you.
It has its consequence.
In your final grading, it will come up.
It will come up, but everything else is not disparaged because of it. Which it could have been. The character could have been badly written, but it's not.
It's true.
You know?
It's true. Alex DeLarge, you follow him. It's like following Ted Bundy, where you know he's a monster, but he's still a really charming conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, I enjoyed the conversation, but I know he just wants to like eat me.
Yes.
It's kind of like that. Like, that's Alex DeLarge as a character. He's played by Malcolm McDowell in probably his most iconic performance, I would argue.
I don't really know him from anything else.
He got much bigger as like an older actor. He was in Heroes. He was in a bunch of stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's a thing where, you know,
his career got kind of like pushed away because of this movie, I'm assuming. He was relegated for a few years, being like, you know, that movie was kind of, I don't know if you should have done that.
Well, maybe not like that harshly, but this movie was a huge controversial mush up. You know, I got
okay,
some notes.
so I'm assuming you have both like the critical and public sentiment here. I want to hear it.
Okay. Right off the bat, the film on its release, it made money. You know, this movie wasn't a like financial bomb.
Okay, but did it cost a lot to make?
It cost $1 million, $1.3 million for 1971. This is Stanley Kubrick's attempt at making basically a low budget film.
I'm like, that sounds pretty cheap.
Oh, dirt cheap. Yes, this even now, like just for
movie
inflation,
does not
like
look
7.
cheap.
It does not. Okay, because the movie's production history is weird.
Okay,
because Stanley Kubrick wanted to make his Napoleon biopic.
Yes.
He wanted to make this big, grandiose Napoleon film. It was going to go through his entire life. He spent like a decade researching the guy. And the guy and the producers are like, we're not giving you this much money because every one of your films not only goes over budget, but you go over time, and you're making a film for like 9 months when we budgeted 3. So we're not going to do it. And he's like, look, guys, give me $1 million. I'll bring it in under budget and on time. Come on. And so he made this as basically his indie film of his career.
I see.
And it's a pretty fucking good film for how cheap it is
it's
relative
really
to
well
everything
done.
else.
Like, I would assume that this was a normally budgeted movie.
Yeah, like $20 million, something like that. But yeah, no, like 1.3, it makes 114 at the box office.
Okay, but did he come in under time, though?
He did.
Really?
It's the only film in Kubrick's entire catalog he actually came in on schedule.
Wow.
Literally the only film, by the way. Not a day. Even the ones he did himself, he did not come in under time.
Oh, of course not.
Of course fucking not. Hunter take Kubrick over here.
Yes.
But when the film also gets released, the film played in England, and it played there for a little bit, and then it gets banned. Because it got banned in England.
Oh, I can see why.
Yeah, basically it was, there's kids.
This comes out in when?
71.
71, okay.
Yeah, the film releases in 1971, and comes out there, and there's a bunch of kids mimicking the film, you know, all being all hoodlums and shit. Kubrick bans it. Then...
Well, Kubrick bans it?
Kubrick personally pulls the film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he would have pulled it in America too, but the American distributors couldn't do that. He was able to pull it in England.
Okay.
And after
less
theaters. And after releasing it, he was like, he kind of regretted it because he realized that people were pulling different things than he wanted out of the film. They saw the disturbing, you know, monstrous Alex DeLarge and saw him as cool guy and not monster that should be analyzed.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the Scarface effect, right? Like, Tony Montana's not a guy you should look up to.
Yeah.
But you have a bunch of people who don't get the meaning of the film just trying to be Tony Montana.
Well, yeah, that's the thing with the surface level viewing of the film is that, like, Alex DeLarge is this person that does bad things, gets punished for it, but in the end, doesn't.
Not really, no.
Yeah, no. He doesn't get a redemption arc. His public image does.
This film has okay, the themes of this film are like the juiciest part about it for me, because the movie talks about free will, it talks about perception, talks about public image, it talks about politics, society, and even like experimental psychology. The movie has a lot of meat to it, but I think the main philosophical argument of the film is, can you be a moral person if you have no free will?
Also, you know, it's a perfect description of another analogy. Another food analogy.
Bring the plates out.
This movie's like a fucking meatloaf. It looks like shit, but it tastes great, and there's a lot of it.
Damn right it is. Is this the Blade Runner pyramid where it looks like one thing at the top and it just gets bigger and wider as you go down?
Yeah, except it doesn't look good at the top. Well, I mean, the movie looks good. Okay, let me. It looks good, but it's just hard on the eyes, you know. Even though that it is also a feast for the eyes, it's a little hard to look at.
Yeah, like, I mean, I think the scene, the R-word scene at the beginning of the movie, I think that's been voted top 10 most disturbing sequences of all time. I know it was that like a couple of years ago. I don't know now. Yeah. But yeah, there's a few moments in this film where it is a little difficult to watch. That one being the main number one, and it comes like 10 minutes into the fucking movie. Which, thanks Kubrick for really putting that shit way in the front.
There's two of them in the fucking movie.
Yeah. 3, 4? I don't know. There's a lot of talking about the old in out in the
the old in out.
Yeah, but like the main theme of this movie, it's like, can you be a moral person if you have no free will? And I just want to throw that onto the table. You know, slide the steak across, the liquor across. You know, have you take a sip. What do you think of it?
Can you be a moral person if you have no free will? In some senses, yes. Yeah, I mean, sure, you could do moral acts without not your own free will. I mean, that's what, like, Calvinist determinism is.
That you have no free will?
That, yeah, everything is determined by God. Like, it's all predetermined, right? It's predeterminism. But you can still do moral acts. God has just determined that you will.
Looking at it through other forms of Christian and Catholicism, is that, God's gift to humanity was free will, and it was choice. And the movie is talking more along those lines than, like, determinism.
Yeah.
Because, like, we spend the first half of the movie seeing Alex be, like, if he is free to choose, he is evil.
Yes.
And he is only moral because he cannot choose to be evil.
Yes. His free will has been taken away from him.
And it's just a really interesting thought in this film where, is that even a good thing to do to someone like him?
I think this is what the film does. At first, Alex has free will. He's a bad guy.
Yeah.
So, it's a facto. Free will bad.
You're right.
Then it goes, okay, free will bad. Therefore, determinism good. He gets reformed, right? He can no longer do bad because he has no free will. Free will bad. And then it goes, well, actually, him, not having his free will, not being able to defend himself or anything like that is not good either.
Yeah.
He gets beat up by his former colleagues.
Yes, his former,
and he can't do anything about it. Because he gets basically imprisoned by Frank and the gang, and he can't do anything. He can't defend himself because of the treatment by the Ludovico treatment. So, obviously, determinism or lack of free will, bad. But then, in the hospital, he gets his free will back. And free will bad again.
It's the thing where it's like, it's a very complicated thing, because it's also talking about what do you do with, I guess, the quote-unquote unrehabilitatable repeat criminals, people who do...
Given the choice, will always choose, I'm gonna go rob that liquor store.
Or like sadist or masochist, things like that.
Yeah.
What
legitimate psychos.
Legitimate psychopaths. What do you do with people like that if, say, the death penalty's not on the table, or like permanent incarceration isn't on the table? Because the movie makes it.
The thing about permanent incarceration is that the accountant looks at it and goes, "Well, this is real fucking expensive here."
They bring that up in the movie. The whole political thing, which is a real political thing, at least where we live, where prisons are getting full. We need to find a way around this. And their Ludovico treatment is like, oh, we can do this experimental method and experiment on these prisoners,
and then
like lab rats.
We can get these prisoners back out into society, back out into the job force. Start making money again, paying taxes.
Taxation.
Well, I mean, that's just a fact, you know. The
Yeah,
accountant
you know.
looks at that and goes, holy shit, that's amazing.
Exactly.
You're telling me that only for however much the Ludovico treatment costs, you know, let's say $5,000 a victim.
A victim, not a subject, a victim.
$5,000 a victim, we can get this bitch back out into society and paying taxes for the next 45 years. This is amazing.
Yeah,
Best thing since sliced fucking bread here to the accountant.
It's just one of those things where, I don't know, like, every time I watch this movie, because I've seen it a few times.
Oh, you've probably seen it a bunch of times.
Yeah, like, it's just I'm a huge, like, Stanley Kubrick fan, but it's always a thing where, like, I watch this movie.
You watch the rest of them more than this?
Yeah, I'll put it to you like that. Like, 2001, Dr. Strangelove, Barry Lyndon, Paths of Glory, those are more my bag. Clockwork Orange, I'm like, it's in the rotation, but it's spaced out a little bit. It's just, like, the film's themes, I think, are just so juicy to chew on.
Oh, yeah, like, they're pouring out of this movie. Like, the movie can hardly contain them. It's just chock full of them. It's probably the most thematically stuffed movie we've talked about so far.
Where it's literally bursting out of the scenes.
Yeah, it piles them on. This is like a 9-layer cake here. This shit's ridiculous.
But where do you want to, I guess, navigate this boat? Or actually, what's the next meal you want to order off the menu? Since this is a food analogy now.
It's always a food analogy. We can never talk on. I've noticed this last time we had an episode. We can never talk about anything without comparing it to something else.
It's a thing, you know.
This is the easiest way to do it. I just thought it was like a food for thought type of
food for thought.
Fucking food for thought type of shit.
God damn it, Randy!
It can't be helped.
Just go to culinary school already.
There's just so many different things to talk about in this. I mean, like, there's also, like, the hierarchy he has with him and his droogs, right? Oh, you know what? No. I want to talk about the language in the movie. The
Nadstat?
What?
That's, okay. That's the language that they use in the film, in the book and in the film. It's called Nadstat, which is a combination of Cockney slang, Russian slang, weird, like, other just, like, random slang terms that have just been muddled together, because it's supposed to be a future dystopian world.
Okay, so this is like a fictional thing created by the book.
Yeah, created by the author. And it's been rather faithfully brought over into the movie.
Oh, I could tell that it was faithfully done. I could fucking tell.
You could fucking tell? Yeah, I actually read the book. The book's really good. Is it
as hard to read as this?
In terms of, like, what's happening, or,
yeah.
like, the language? Oh, because
like, what's happening?
Oh, it's very faithful to the book. I mean, it's very faithful to the movie. Yeah, it's a little hard,
rough around the edges.
A little rough around the edges, but again, it's just as thought provoking.
Yeah,
the film definitely is adding a lot more, like, layers onto it, because, like, the political stuff that's going on, that's way more engrossed in the book. The book also really only focuses on the moral argument of free will,
and doesn't really branch out as much.
Not as much as, like, my last reading of it, which is, I'll admit, has been a couple of years. But yeah, it's the same beast. It's just when you watch the movie, it definitely feels like there's more frosting on the cake.
Mm-hmm.
The bases are the same, but also the book has an extra chapter that is basically ruins the entire thing. So
at the end, I'm assuming.
At the end, ruins the entire thing. That's not in the movie.
Would you like to describe this?
So the last chapter, I think it's chapter 21. Where it flashes forward like 5 years, right? And Alex is now at a bar, and he sees one droog we don't see beat him up as a police officer, Pete.
Mm-hmm.
And he sees that Pete has, like, grown up, moved on. He has, like, a kid and a wife now. And Alex suddenly is like, you know, I did kind of grow out of that old yada yada. I think I might find a good bird to settle down with and live my own life. It basically fucking pussies out at the end instead of making the statement that this movie does, where it's just as is.
Mm-hmm.
It tries to be like, well, Alex, he got better.
That's pretty fucking lame.
Yeah, it was forced into by the publishers, because they were like, can't put this out like this, dog. Yeah, but I think in the American version they took out that last chapter, so as you do. But yes, the language is interesting.
I like it a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
You do?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, like, 1984 and stuff like that.
Really? Okay, I haven't read 1984.
You haven't read 1984?
I've never had the chance.
Yeah,
With all the weird shit I read, you'd think I'd got around to it.
Oh my god, it's like one of the most important books written in fucking the 20th century. But
I'm working my way to it, dog. You have me reading fucking The Trial and Death of Socrates.
Bro, that shit's 60 fucking pages.
And it's dense. It's denser than The Lord of the Rings.
It's pretty... Okay, it's not denser than The Lord of the Rings.
Okay, I'll go with The Hobbit.
Dense.
I'll go with the dense The Hobbit.
It's probably denser than The Hobbit. But anyways... Fuck, what were you talking about? What were you
We're getting around to it. Okay, it was, the language of the film.
The language... Okay, oh yeah, in 1984. Yeah, in 1984 they have like their own language they speak or whatever. I don't remember what it's called. But
common.
I think it's just called Newspeak or something like that. But it's like but yeah, it's like it's not that thematically similar with this movie in like the way that the characters talk, but it is like one of those like made up languages for like a dystopian future.
Mm-hmm.
So I do draw some similarities there, but that one's more, it's a forced language, while this one's like, they're kind of like living on this underbelly of society, and that's where the language comes from.
And these, and the main characters, the droogs we see, they're really the only ones that speak it, and even Alex speaks not only in this Nasdaq, he also speaks really flowery, like he's in a Shakespeare play, like a lot of thous and doses and dis, which I kind of love.
Oh, it's great. It is so good.
It's one of those things you're watching him and you're like, Malcolm McDowell, you are chewing the scenery, but it's beautiful. Please don't stop.
It's so good. I mean, it shows the characters like want to be sophisticated. He listens to Beethoven's Ninth a lot.
Yeah.
He fucking loves Beethoven. He this want to be this rich, sophisticated man, but he's at his core this hooligan, And
by the time we get to the end of the film, it's implied he's going to have some sort of, like, political pull. Is that trying to draw a parallel to like, politicians, where, all these guys are, pomp and circumstance in front of the cameras, but behind the scenes, they're, like, as sadistic as him. They're the ones who are like, fuck it, put him in the fucking weird Nazi chamber, and just like, yeah, whatever pops out, pops out. Fuck it.
Yeah, of course.
Give me another line of blow.
You can make that, like,
draw that parallel.
Draw that parallel between the two. I mean, especially nowadays.
Yeah.
We don't want to get too politically here, but
not a politics podcast.
But not a politics podcast. Catch us on our other podcast, Politics Now. No, I was joking.
No, God, no.
Just joking. Don't look that up. I have no idea what that is.
Please don't.
But you can very much make that like parallel where the politicians are all on their outside trying to be these big, flowery, intellectual people. And at their heart, they're just other criminals.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing is you also have the point that they make where, Alex, you come from a good home, good parents, but we see his parents and they're like middle class, you would say? Upper middle class?
They both work. Yeah. So
but they're just not very attentive?
They don't live in a house, though. They live in an apartment.
Yeah, in like an apartment block that looks like a fucking Soviet block with a bunch of dicks on the wall.
Yes. Which is...
Okay.
Funny.
The movie's kind of funny.
In some parts, it's kind of funny, yes.
You can see this as a little bit of a black comedy in some parts.
I can't remember. There was one scene in the movie that I thought was fucking hilarious, but I don't remember what it was.
There was one scene that you thought was
fucking... Yeah, I thought it was fucking funny as hell, but I can't remember what it was.
Oh, was it him, all dressed as a Roman soldier, helping Jesus on the cross?
Yes! That is this. I thought that shit was so good.
I had
so
to think
fucking funny.
I had to think of the moment. Like, where was the moment where Randy started fucking howling? Oh yeah.
My god. That shit is just done, and he's all dressed up in the Roman gear, too.
And you see Jesus, and it's, like, perfect.
Yeah, you see Jesus, and it's, like, this nice portrayal of him, where he's just very solemn, going through you're dragging the cross to his crucifixion.
And then it just pans over, and it's Malcolm McDowell with this shit-eating grin.
He's just fucking, like, living his best life, dude. He's got the whip and the fucking Roman gear, and he's just fucking all smiles, whipping Jesus. It's so fucking good.
And the fucking voiceover, and he's like, I fantasize about this every day.
Yeah.
This really gets me through. The movie is kind of funny.
It is kind of funny. Also, that whole kind of scene there is like a commentary on like Bible studies almost on the people that get too infatuated with the big epic parts of the like the Old Testament, you know, where it's
the Roman battles and the sex and shit.
Yeah, where he describes it in the movie where it's like, you know, the old and outs and the ultra violence that happens occasionally, and the people that come away from the big book, as they say in the movie, with that kind of idea. They come away with, you know, all the like preachy shit near the end of the New Testament, whatever. But the whole in out and the ultra violence in the Old Testament, I can really go with that.
All right, level down. That's literally what happened with this movie. Is people only took the exciting first half and didn't take the second half where it got a little preachy.
Well, yeah, the movie does commentate on surface level readings, you know, and that, I mean, Stanley Kubrick pulled the movie because most people are only getting surface level readings out of it.
Yeah.
They're only getting the elementary readings out of it.
Elementary, my dear plebeians.
Sorry, I was reading how to read a book today.
How was that? How's learning to read by reading a book?
It's a really good book.
Neato.
I would very much recommend.
I would also like to recommend the Film History, the History of Film podcast.
Oh my god.
There's the segue. Watch the trailer.
Welcome to Film History,
the history of film.
I'm James.
And I'm Drake.
And I'm Devin.
And we're the host of Film History, the History of Film. Each week, we take a deep dive into some old Hollywood history that you've probably never heard about.
But it's not like your high school film class. We're cracking jokes and goofing off the entire time.
It's history told our way, for all audiences, from the ill-informed to the savants of cinema.
Yeah, we tell you about James Cagney almost getting his head blown off because, well, you know, back in the 30s, you were allowed to just shoot machine guns at your leading man.
And wait until you hear the episode about Waterworld.
Or how the world's first vampire movie was made by real occultists. And some Nazis.
And there's plenty more little-known Hollywood lore out there, legends and facts. So if you join us every Wednesday, wherever you listen to podcasts, I promise it'll be a good time.
Yeah, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. Just look for Film History,
the history of film.
All right, but where do we want to, I guess, direct this train?
I directed it last time. Where are you going now? You got the wheel.
I got the wheel. Okay, I just gotta throw it out here. Kubrick's a master, and this movie is a masterpiece. Can we just talk about the direction in this film? Because this is a unique fucking movie to watch, right?
Yes, very much so, and it is a feast for the eyes. I mean, like
with how cheap the budget is, this movie should not look as good as it does.
Oh, I mean. Well, okay, $1 million isn't cheap to a lot of people, but I mean, to the big film industry, that's pretty fucking cheap.
That is pretty fucking cheap. I mean, even for like 71, God, I want to say, like, what other movie did we watch in 71? I think The French Connection cost like 3 or 4.
Yeah, and that movie looked kind of crummy at places.
Yeah, this don't look nearly as crummy.
And The French Connection was done without
permits.
We're done without permits or anything. They just fucking shot. And I'm sure Stanley Kubrick at least got some permits.
You would think so. But watching this movie, it's really hard to describe it because the movie should be, like, by genre, like an exploitation film.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is a movie where it's like, okay, this is like a Hills Have Eyes kind of thing where it should be, like, grimy, gritty, and, like, kind of nasty and all over the edges. But you watch and it's so, like, sterile in some places. And I think, like... And yeah, Kubrick has a penchant of being a genreless filmmaker.
The only places that are, like, dirty in the movie is, like, around Alex DeLarge's, like, apartment. Are they, like... Even, like, underneath the bridge isn't even dirty. There just happens to be a homeless guy there, you know? Like...
And also, there's not, like... shadows, by the way, under the bridge.
Oh,
those
yeah.
deep fucking silhouettes.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh, my eyes.
But it's like there's no trash or anything around. There's no like cardboard. Like there's the abandoned cinema, which is pretty trashed.
Yeah.
There's Alex DeLarge's like outside of his apartment because inside of his apartment isn't even trashed either.
Yeah.
And that's like the only like dirty places in the whole movie.
Yeah, where the movie's making a point that this is a dirty, crummy, like dystopian world. Everything else is like pretty like cleaned
sterile.
up. Yeah, and the other thing is, I'm even talking about the camera direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the movie doesn't have like the film's not very grainy. It doesn't look like, oh, this was shot on like grimy 16 millimeter, put you in the action, and we're like whipping in and out. The movie feels almost like documentarian, like he's just like following these characters,
yeah,
and watching the chaos that unfolds around them.
Yeah, even when it gets a little bit more, I mean, I'm sure they didn't do like handheld, but like more in that sense in the movie when we get a couple shots like that. Even then, it seems pretty professional.
Yeah,
they're not really like fucking winging it.
You want to know
it's very deliberate.
You want to know the best winging it of the movie?
What?
When Alex falls out the window and it cuts and it's the camera like falling into the ground? You know how they did that?
They just threw the camera out the window.
Just chucked a 16 out the window. Put the lens on and chucked the fucker out a third-story window right into the ground.
Nice.
3 cameras later, they got the shot.
I'm sure the thing that happened to the first 2 cameras is that they like flipped over and looked up.
You would think.
I'm pretty sure that's exactly what happened. They were like, hey, I think the aerodynamics of this thing, it's just gonna look up every time. And Stanley's like, try another camera.
No, Kubrick's probably like, we could strap a PA to it. And they're like, no, Stanley.
Strap
no.
a PA to
He's like, we got plenty of PAs. Just saying.
Just saying. We could get an intern on that thing.
I also want to talk about this. I guess this is like a level beyond this because we didn't get a chance to talk about it in Spartacus.
Okay.
Stanley Kubrick as a director, asshole or genius?
Both. Definitely yes.
Yes, okay. Because he's, I think it's a thing where people idolize the fact that, oh, he's so meticulous and is such a perfectionist, but he's like, he hurt, like, Malcolm McDowell in this movie, like, telling people just beat him up so it looks right, or he scratched his cornea when they did the fucking, like, eye
they
thing.
did the Ludovico treatment.
And it's like...
He also Terry-eyed Shelley Duvall in
The Shining.
In The Shining.
Also, the scene in this movie, he made that actress do it, like, 3 or 4 times until she just left set.
And he was like, I guess we'll just use that shot.
He got another actress.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, it's a thing where he's very particular and he makes quality work, but man,
he doesn't take a compromise well.
Does not.
Well, I mean, he does get good movies out of it.
Some of the best, I would argue. I mean, this even for being a hard watch, I would say this is a great film. This is like a masterpiece.
I would say it's a greatly done film.
Oh
yeah, it was masterfully crafted.
As a craftsman,
Oh yeah, like as one craftsman appreciating, another's, that was what, like, how I would try and view through that lens this movie. Use that theory, that critical theory.
Yeah.
View the movie through a lens. The lens being the craftsmanship of the movie.
And just Kubrick, I would argue, is one of the greatest craftsmen of cinema. His movies, usually immaculate cinematography.
This is the kind of guy you pay $2,000 to hand make your shoes,
He makes some damn good shoes.
Makes some fucking good shoes.
But I just wanted to bring that up because Kubrick kind of is a little bit of a controversial figure in that whole sphere.
Well, I mean, he made this movie, which is pretty controversial.
Yeah.
He terrorized Shelley Duvall. Pretty controversial.
Made Tom Cruise walk through a door 200 times.
Yes.
Filmed every one. He wasted...
Tom Cruise was in a...
Eyes Wide Shut, his last film.
Also, Eyes Wide Shut being a whole nest of conspiracy theories.
Is it about the moon landing? Is it about Hollywood? Is it about politics? What's it all about? It's just an Alex Jones episode.
If we were to talk about Eyes Wide Shut, this would get very Alex Jones real quick. But back to the movie at hand from Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
Where he did scratch Malcolm McDowell's cornea.
Yeah.
Kind of rough.
And, like, I appreciate the work. It's just... Man, like, can you call him a dick, like an asshole? Because I feel he didn't.
Yeah, because I'm sure he didn't. I'm sure he didn't fucking care. Like, when he scratched Malcolm McDowell's cornea, he's like, "Well, did we get the shot?
Get the shot.
Fucking Shelley Duvall from The Shining is like in her trailer, like pulling out her hair or whatever.
No,
and
she didn't pull her hair out. Her hair fell out because
yes,
of stress.
Because she was so stressed. He's like, yo, can we dye those gray hairs? They weren't there yesterday.
I think that's my favorite part about The Shining, and I know it's fucked up, but it's just like he started being like just really petty to Shelley Duvall just to make her feel more alienated for the role.
God,
and
it's just like that stuff is like, there's a line, and you have prostate, sir. You're just being a dick, right? You could tell her like it's just for the role, like I don't mean it. But I'm like, I'm not even sure if he ever apologized.
Oh, I know he didn't.
I know he did.
I know for a fact he didn't.
Just to keep the air of him alive, you know?
Exactly. And I mean, granted, Shelley Duvall has gone on being like, it's my best performance. And I'm like, don't forgive your abuser, Shelley.
Well, I mean, she's being real.
Yeah, I know. It's just one of those things where, because it's like, I think Kubrick's one of the best directors of all time. I think he's probably like my favorite director. Cause like,
well, I know he's your favorite director,
yeah,
but
it's like it's a hard thing.
I think he's really good too. But it's it is what I have to go with my usual approach on stuff like this. It is what it is. He's really good and also kind of a dick. It is what it is. You know, his movies are really good.
And back to the Clockwork Orange. I guess the movie at hand.
One of his good movies. I would say it's a good movie. Overall, a amazing movie on craftsmanship, and then it's whatever for a watch.
It
as a flick, I'd watch other things. As a film, pretty good. As cinema, really fucking good.
It's the thing where this is a hard recommendation in any line.
Yeah, I probably, unless you're like really interested in craftsmanship, I wouldn't recommend this movie.
I guess where does that lead us here? Just into like the craftsmanship or like the entertainment factor of the movie?
We can talk a little bit about both. A little bit about like what did we actually find entertaining about the movie? Can we bring it up a little bit in that regard?
Malcolm McDowell as Alex DeLarge is one of the most like charismatic, one of the most engaging, gripping, and also one of the most sadistic characters in cinema.
True, he is. Malcolm McDowell puts on a fucking performance as Alex DeLarge, and he is so good. Even the voiceover work is good.
Which, like, you got a thing about voiceover work, right? Like, sometimes you're like, this is a little cheesy no matter what it is.
Yeah, voiceover work. I mean, usually I give voiceover work a little bit of a benefit of a doubt, even though I know it's kind of bad. Mm. I know that Stingo in Sophie's Choice. I know it's a little cheesy, but I give it the benefit of a doubt, I understand its drawbacks, but in this, it works on all fronts. It's just good. Like, there's no disparaging comments I can give it. It's not cheesy, it's all
on theme, it's all on character, it's great voiceover, it's great dialogue.
It's great dialogue, yeah. Even though the dialogue is, also he wrote, or who wrote the screenplay for this? Was it Stanley?
Who wrote this? I believe, yeah, Stanley Kubrick wrote the screenplay.
So, yeah, he fucking nailed it with the dialogue, incorporating that, what do you... Nadstak, yeah. He nailed it with the dialogue, having to incorporate that into it, and then somehow made it all... I mean, it's like...
all fucking coherent.
Yeah, it's coherent. I understand what the characters are talking about, even though they're speaking basically a foreign fucking language.
They're speaking fucking nonsense.
Yeah. But I can get the gist of what they're saying, They're talking about having the old in out with the... Oh God, what do they call the women?
The dose chicks,
something like that. But like,
kick him in the yobbles.
I could, kick him in the yobbles.
If you got any yobbles,
yeah, and I can get what they're talking about, which is insane. It's like I really like
the pure visual cinematic language. He lets you understand a language.
I mean, in that respect, it's like Sunrise. In that respect. Where it's like I can understand what the characters are saying with less context than I'm used to.
Which, honestly, is, again, back like the craftsmanship of this movie. Visually, the movie works on levels like that. There's some instances where I'm like, I can kind of turn off the audio, and I can still probably vibe and figure out what's going on here. I mean, I
don't know if I can turn it off.
There's some sections you can definitely do.
Sections, yes. But anytime Malcolm McDowell's talking, no, you need the audio.
You're like, I need to hear this guy.
I need to hear it. Yeah, I think the movie would make so much less sense without Alex DeLarge talking. You could almost listen to the movie more than you could watch it.
And speaking of listening to this movie, because I made a note, because the score of this movie.
Really good.
Really good. Also, I'm pretty sure De Palma stole it for Scarface. It sounds so much
Brian
like...
De Palma did Scarface?
Yeah, Brian De Palma made Scarface.
What the fuck?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No?
Yes, dude. Also, Scarface is the most 80s film ever made.
Really?
Everyone should watch that movie. It is so 80s. It is
I don't know
ungodly.
if I would say that.
Randy, there's a montage that has "Take It to the Limit."
I'm not gonna say that it's not 80s, but that everybody should watch it. I'm not sure about that.
Just watch the montage. You will understand what I mean.
Yes.
But
You think he ripped the score from this movie?
I think so. It sounds so similar. Like if somebody owes somebody some fucking money, that's all I'm saying. But the music in this is so good, and
Really
also the use of Beethoven in the film. I'm not a classical music guy, you know.
But it's like one of the most famous pieces of classical music.
Music, though.
Yeah, of classical music is Beethoven's Ninth. Like, you say Beethoven's Ninth, and people have people that don't care almost at all about classical music are like, they kind of got an idea of what you're talking about. They're
Or
like, oh,
they might be like, the fuck is that? They'd be like, dun 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 dun.
And it's like, oh,
Fuck,
right,
yeah.
of course. Yeah. That's Beethoven's Ninth? Exactly.
But what? I just love the use of it in the film, and also how
It's like becomes its own theme.
Yeah, and it's not just brushed away. And also the thing, going back into the theme of the film, is music as an expression of one's humanity. And, they've tainted Beethoven's Ninth, and they've thus tainted his humanity. And we know he has his, quote-unquote, his humanity, or at least his free will back once they're able to play, and he doesn't, freak out.
You know what? That they had the same theme in Shawshank Redemption.
Oh yeah,
I didn't think about that. Yeah, they had the same theme in Shawshank Redemption, where he's like, "I'm still human because I still have music. They can't take music away from me."
And in this, they take music away from him.
They take the music away from him, and he becomes less human.
He becomes a Clockwork Orange.
Is that what
that's the
where
whole metaphor?
Name?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
God.
well, it's the thing because
I always wondered why it was called Clockwork Orange.
So here's the deal. On the surface, you see the orange and it's sweet and natural and supple, but if you tear it apart, then it's just clockwork inside, right?
Yeah.
Oh, on the surface, this is a human who is, natural and whole, but if you open it up after the Ludovico, he's clockwork. He's not human. He's a
simulacrum.
He's a simulacrum, He's a machine because he has no choice.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Clockwork Orange. It's one of those weird metaphors that it's a weird metaphor that also is like a Cockney slang term. It's like, oh, that boy's as weird as a Clockwork Orange.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he looks normal, but he's a little weird on the inside.
Yeah, he's not right on the inside. Real quick though, while we're talking about the symbolism of the Clockwork Orange, how do you feel about that book cover with the flames and the screaming guy?
Because that's the one I own.
Yes.
I think it's a horrible cover.
It's fucking awful, isn't it? I know this is a huge tangent, but
yeah,
that shit looks terrible, right?
It is the book I have of it is of that publication run. We're looking at it. It's this was in the Photoshop era of book covers.
Oh, we're still in that era.
This is like the beginning. We're on that where it's like Photoshop 3, and I'm like this. It's not a great cover. There's a lot of good versions of this book that look way better. I prefer any of the other ones. So, but there's that tangent. Look for any other copy except the one with the flames and the guy screaming on it, because it doesn't make any sense. You don't see a guy on fire in the entire book. It's foolish.
Well,
false
advertising. You don't see him. You would read about him.
Shut the fuck up, Andy. Shut the fuck up, you illiterate asshole.
There's also themes about parenting in this movie too.
Yeah,
about his parents, about nature versus nurture.
Are his parents good? I don't, because it feels to me they're not very attentive. He hasn't been to school in a week, and they don't really seem to care all that much.
I think they kind of know that their kid is up to no good. I mean, they already know he's up to no good because he has a social worker.
Yeah,
he has basically a parole officer.
Yeah,
who punches him in the dick randomly.
Do you think his parole officer is abusing him? Do you think that was a thing that was happening with Mr. Deltoid?
I don't think it was that kind of abuse.
Let me lay it out, Deltoid, he's waiting in the inner sanctum of the house. Not waiting in the foyer, waiting in the parents' bedroom.
Yes.
Alex comes in, he's in his fucking underwear, and doesn't seem to think anything of it. And Mr. Deltoid's like, oh, yes, Alex, yes. Also, he talks just like that.
Yes, he does.
And then, takes him in bed, puts his arms around him, gets all friendly, and they fall back into the bed. And then suddenly, Deltoid tries to just pop him on the balls.
At the height of Deltoid's, performance
Tirade.
of his lifetime, punches him in the dick. Honestly,
Randy, come on.
That seems really good. The way Deltoid goes through that whole sequence.
And it's all done in
great.
one fucking shot, too,
Yeah,
which is really impressive.
Yeah, he fucking nails it.
Also, it's one of those things, and also Deltoid just seems so slimy, and he is the representation of the authority. And that also goes into the other thing. This film feels so anti-authoritarian across the board.
Yeah, but it also displays the Frank, who's trying to fight totalitarianism, as just another side of the same coin. He is merely using Alex DeLarge for his own gain at the same time. He wants to drive him to suicide to A, gain closure for his wife's death, and B, get the government to stop doing the Ludovico treatment too.
And also basically push a political
agenda.
Yeah, which, again, movie's a lot smarter than just dumb crime movie, right?
It's starting to get a little webby here, the interconnectivity is starting to get it's like fucking Dark Souls map,
Oh god. Now, the other one, because another point, the music, Singing in the Rain, which is this really pretty love song. Yeah, it's one of the most famous show tunes of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to bring in that's in the movie, and it was improvised by Malcolm McDowell on the day, but when it comes in, it's also used as kind of a signal, where Alex sings it, and that's the only way the guy remembers him. And I think it's so interesting how all the bits of music in the movie play into how the plot unfolds.
Yeah.
And it's also used at the credit sequence, where it's, Singing in the Rain. Do you think there's any significance that Kubrick interwove that into the film after this bit of improvisation?
Oh, I'm sure he fucking loved it and ran right with it. I'm sure he, after Malcolm McDowell did that, he was like, oh, I need to use that. He's like, we're doing that. Well, he was like, okay, that's gonna play out here and here, and we're gonna make it a thing.
Yeah, because I feel it also shows the dichotomy of Alex sings this really pretty, it's a song about love, as he's brutally assaulting a woman.
Yeah.
And then it comes up again as he's relaxing, and it's it's a song that when people think about it, it's it's all nice and smiles, and it's causing this huge trauma to another individual. To Frank. And I wonder if Kubrick is trying to use that as a means to show the dichotomy of people, because at the beginning of the movie, when it's doing that long pull out, that long I think it's a zoom out, we see on both sides of the Crova Milk Bar, we see hippies and guys in military costumes. We see a gang of men and a gang of women. We see one black guard, one white guard, as they're all lined up, and it feels like Kubrick is making a distinct point of showing the two sides of humanity.
Yeah.
The underbelly and the surface, and how they all kind of intermingle, and how stuff, I guess.
Yeah,
I just want to bring it up.
No, it shows through the whole movie. Everything is shown as two sides to the same coin. I think it kind of rounds out to just about everything in the movie almost is shown that way. I mean, there's the politicians or there's the doctors and the politicians and a lot of the characters in this movie where they're appearing to try and do good, right?
Yeah.
And some of their ideas seem good on the surface.
Good on paper.
Good on paper, but when you think about them and in practice, they don't seem to be working out all that well, no matter how hard they try in any direction.
The whole commentary on aversion therapy that is the Ludovico treatment is a big thing where, oh, that sounds good on paper, and then you extrapolate logical ends, or even even the logical ends where it's oh, well, if we do this, then he can't be intimate anymore. If he does this, then he can't defend himself in self-defense. And that's not even going into the whole philosophical argument that the movie's really getting at of, well, you know, if he can't even choose to do bad, can he even choose to do good if he has no choice?
Which the pastor brings up?
The minister,
yeah.
And that's the thing, you know, humanity is two sides of a coin, you know. We are good and we are evil, we are yin and we are yang, and what makes us good or bad is the choices we make.
Yeah, I mean, like, I would say that, like, the minister himself would argue that in order to be able to do good, you have to be able to make bad choices. You have to just choose not to. Which is, like, I think, like, 90% of, like, the Protestant, like, idea of Christianity.
Pretty much, you know.
Is that, like, you choose to do... You're not determined to always do good. You are determined to do the good you can, you know, to choose to do good whenever you can.
Yeah, your morality is... There's also another thing I think they bring up.
If you can't ever do bad, you know, can you do any good?
And there's also points brought up about it in society, because I think there's a whole... Like, this society that it's built up is, quote-unquote, like, dystopian.
Yeah.
It feels like a kind of like a totalitarian government. It feels... Everything is like, looks like a fucking Soviet bloc, really, and I wonder if that's also a thing of, oh, this is kind of like a Stalin-esque dictatorship. We just see it. We just don't see that. It's in the background.
Well, but the thing is that they're talking about the polls and voting.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
So it's not totalitarian.
But they do say they're voting out the government, so it's like, wait, if they lose the thing, the whole government just switches? Like, are they just gonna shoot the fucker?
Well, no, here's the thing, you know, it's that they do that same shit here in America, you know, where it's just like, oh, they're gonna vote out the whole government, you know, everything will change with your vote, you know, or the world's gonna fucking go on fire depending on who you vote for.
Yada yada.
If you vote for me, everything will be fine. If you vote for the other guy, you're fucked.
I get it. I understand. But I just think, you know, how this society, in terms of the movie, determines what is good and bad is also another thing, because with this aversion therapy, they're not molding somebody who will always make the morally correct choice. He's making the societal norm choice, which is another whole, like...
can of worms.
Can of worms, where it's just like, well, can you choose, like... Is it good because it is true good, or is it good because that's what your government decides is good? Which, we're not a politics podcast.
Dean, what is piety? What is being pious?
Look, Randy, I read the whole fucking chapter, and I ain't got dick for you.
Well, that's what he was talking about, though.
What is the true good?
Yeah, what is the true good? What is being... is it to be to yourself, to God, to your society? You know, who decides what's good? Although there's a whole thing about that. There's a whole thing about the oh god, what is it called? The categorical imperative, you know, which is like, you know, do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
I don't know. It's one of those things where I just bring it up because the movie's deep. This is a very deep swimming pool.
Yeah, like I would fucking drown in this shit.
Well, before you drown, is there anything else you want to jump onto this movie? Anywhere else you want to steer the menu?
Yeah, I want to tap the table a couple more times. Can I do that?
Yeah, you piece of shit. I don't know why he does this, people.
I can't stop it. The table's right there, and it's very nice to rest my arm on it and talk with my hands. God. You have to keep that explanation in there.
I got you. But seriously, anything else you want to roll the movie?
Frank's performance, that character.
The writer?
Yeah, the writer, is so good. He's so unhinged when Alex Allard shows back up.
It's weird because he's almost like a cartoon, but he's so engaging and raw.
He's just fucking going into it. I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I know that it seems really strange, but it's just like that completely genuine unhinged that he gets. I think sells it.
Yeah. It's one of those things where watching it, you see this guy going all fucking in on this sanity break. There is no holding back. And that's commitment. That's commitment of a performer. Mm-hmm. And every performer in this movie fucking commits.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the other one is the prison guard. The one that, like, stamps his feet all the time.
Yes.
Only yells in military jargon.
It's so good.
Where, okay, this guy is committed to this shit. It is also another funny bit where he goes and stamps his feet 2 times as he stands at attention, calls Alex over, and Alex does it, but he jumps, like, he fucking skips into place.
Yes, he fucking hops right into that shit.
Again, the movie is funny. Like,
it's funny in bits. It's hard to watch in others, but overall, it is a masterfully crafted movie.
Is this the AFI question now?
That's just gonna be that's probably gonna be the hardest AFI question we've gone to so far.
Because in craftsmanship, it's a fucking masterpiece.
It's a fucking masterpiece.
In
It's easily top 10 material.
In thematics, it's a fucking
masterpiece. Easily top 10 material.
In terms of casual watchability,
bottom tier, Bringing Up Baby levels.
Which is
actually, I'd probably watch Bring Up Baby before I'd watch this.
Really, is the movie that hard of a watch?
I just don't see why I would watch this movie again without having a pen and paper ready. Without literally getting my wine glass of cognac, a nice cigar and a pad and pencil.
Be careful with that wine; you might fall into your spaghetti.
Oh, true.
Which another funny part of this movie.
He just fucking face plants right into it.
I also love the whole build-up where he's bringing up the wine glass. He's like looking at it. I was like, oh yes, beautiful bouquet. Fucking looking at it in the light, being like, is there any shit in here? Oh, the red is beautiful, guys. Oh, just lovely.
And he takes the first sip and he's like, huh, that's pretty good.
And then he just fucking chugs the whole thing. I love it. Love it. But yeah, I get what you mean, because this is number 70 on the list.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of, casual watchability, it's difficult.
Yeah, difficult at best.
I can't in good conscience recommend this to anyone in the blind. This is a movie you recommend to people who
definitely not in the blind.
This is a movie you recommend to people who are okay, you're really into movies. That's one big qualifier. You have a pretty good constitution against watching some fucked up shit. Your average Redditor or 4chan person.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of want to see a masterfully crafted film.
But I think the biggest qualifier is that you're willing to engage with the movie. You're willing to dig into it. You're willing to see the themes that are presented to you.
You're okay going the extra mile for the movie.
You're willing to give not an elementary surface level watch of the movie, but an analytical watch.
Which I think is really the way you should watch the film, is a little bit more analytically, because there's so much there.
The only thing is that's a pretty big ask. Honestly, that's a pretty I'm willing to do it for the podcast.
Yeah.
But honestly, on my free time, that's a huge fucking ask.
Yeah, this is a movie if you I couldn't put this on for The Boys, because it's that is not the crowd for that.
No.
I get to watch Lord of the Rings with them, no fucking problem.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I could watch Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. That movie fucks. Clockwork Orange is a little bit different. A little bit fucking different. So, but where does it go? Because I can't really drop it out of...
Yeah, you got the list somewhere?
Oh, yes, actually, I do have the list. Our previous list from our milestone episode.
On the microphone.
The previous list from our milestones episodes. Because number 1 for our last milestone was Sunrise. And looking at the list, it's I think this is... do you think this is better than Silence of the Lambs?
Okay, I was about to say that, yeah. I would put it at number 9.
Better than Silence of the Lambs, better than Ben-Hur, better Blade Runner.
I would put it about there. That's instantly where I went to. I like how we both.
We both glanced at the list and we're like, yeah, that's about right.
Right there, yeah, top 10, but it's not supplanting these other movies. I mean, pure craftsmanship.
Look, pure craftsmanship. It's in the top 5.
I'd probably put it number 3. I'd put it above Do the Right Thing, below 12 Angry Men and Sunrise.
In just pure
craftsmanship. If I was committed to only ever watching this movie analytically, pen and paper ready, with the pause ready and everything. Oh yeah, easily top 3 material right there.
Yeah.
But as it is as a whole,
including as a piece of entertainment,
It's got its flaws, you know. It's got its flaws. Also, was this movie very influential to anybody?
I would say so. Yeah, I would say. Looking at the movie,
I don't really know of any other movies that remind me of this that like have any kind of like, oh yeah, that's kind of like Clockwork Orange in any way. Like I don't really
that like anti-hero like thematics of it. You know, where it's.
I mean, anti-hero is like
a very broad term.
Well, also like I don't think it would really apply here. He's not like he's like a straight up villain.
It's
like,
a movie we just follow the bad guy.
Yeah, we follow the antagonist, you know, and the protagonist is nowhere to be found.
Yeah, that is true. I feel you can bring in like pop culture impact because I've seen this like referenced on The Simpsons like a few fucking times.
Oh yeah, referencing, but influence,
like pure influence, like people pointing and being like, "Oh, this is where I one for one pulled this into a movie."
Well, that would be reference. I'm talking about influence. Like, people took this and were like, you know what? I'm going to do something like this with my own spin on it. I'm going to take this aspect of the movie and incorporate it into my work.
I mean, like, some of the camera work, I can see, this is weird, I can kind of see in Sam Raimi.
Okay.
Especially, you know, like the fast, like, zoom-ins or when it, you know, goes into the guy's face and it's kind of like, just like zooms in.
Or like when he's like, when the camera like drags along the ground.
Yeah, things like that where the camera becomes the performance in those moments. That's a very Sam Raimi thing.
Sure, yeah, I can see that.
I can see a lot of, like this style, this like dystopian style, this like block style. I can see that being influenced in some other films.
Yeah, but I don't think that's like a really like a result of this movie.
You think it's just a product of
the times, you know, a product of like Cold War era movies, right? Like where they have like they're gonna feature commie blocks occasionally, you know, to comment on certain aspects of society, you know. Because, I mean, Alex DeLarge is this evil person that comes from living in a commie block.
Yeah, I guess you could...
You could read it that way.
He does also use straight, like, Russian slang.
Yeah, uses straight Russian... I mean, you can make... I mean, I don't think those relationships are very valid, but you could definitely make them. You could string that together.
Yeah, you can definitely run with that kind of
also,
interpretation.
Isn't it like a Russian... what's it like? I don't remember. Like a Russian style, like workers painting like mural in the building that they like drill the dicks on.
Yeah, actually, yeah, there is. It makes me wonder, like the
or maybe it's German.
Either way, it makes me wonder the
German.
For God's sakes, it makes me wonder the implications of the world this is taking place in, because is it like some sort of like weird amalgamation of just authoritarian end of sentence, or is it a little bit more specific than that?
Well, maybe it's
his mom works in a factory. Factory work is a very one-for-one parallel of like Soviet era communism.
It could be a commentary on. I mean, it could be like a rip of like 1984 in a sense, where it's just the British European conglomerate, right?
I mean, what's more interesting? Alright, here's another layer on this movie. So all the buildings you see in the film, those are fascist architecture. They were literally built by Nazis while they were working political parties within Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So they're literally fascist architecture, and that's all the buildings in the movie.
We forgot to mention, fucking they have a clip of what was the movie again?
A Triumph of the Will.
Triumph of the Will in this movie.
Yeah, they literally named the Nazis in this movie. But in terms of like influence, I mean, it's incredibly acclaimed. Like nominated for Academy Awards, nominated for BAFTAs, nominated for a bunch of shit. The thing is like looking at it as a piece of, as an influence upon like society. It's a landmark. It's a landmark of pushing like violence in cinema, like expanding like what violence used to be, because it's in 1971.
Sure, yeah. The fact that this movie got released at all is like shown as like a relaxation on the crackdown of like violence in cinema and sex in cinema.
I mean, this, Bonnie and Clyde, Easy Rider. Let me just look at the list that's on the screen. Wild Bunch, Night of the Living Dead, Dirty Harry, Straw Dogs. Like violence and sex in movies, Clockwork Orange is like pushing that boundary because it's looking for the line. Like, how far can we go? Because like the fucking 40s, 50s, even into the early 60s,
pretty sterile,
incredibly sterile.
Unless it's like a shootout in a western.
Everything is so chaste, and even shootouts in westerns, the guy like grabs his chest and falls down.
Over. Yeah,
yeah. It's a film that I think does like show its influence on its sleeves in terms of pushing the medium in terms of censorship in a different direction.
Yeah, I guess its influence can be seen as pretty general.
Instead of ultra specific to
instead
it,
of specific being like, oh yeah, this person picked up these themes and has run with them in their other movies, has really picked up these elements like the use of Beethoven's Ninth or classical music as like a
one
theme in a movie.
I think Blade Runner takes something from this in terms of, Blade Runner's like, oh, the soul and like what is humanity. This movie I think even goes like hand in hand with that in, oh, your humanity is defined by like your choices. Can you make choice?
Mm-hmm.
Or you're just a machine man. Whereas in Blade Runner, they are machine men, that are
interested in making their own choices.
Interested in their own humanity. I feel Blade Runner has some drawing from this. They're both I guess not dystopian, but futuristic, dirty, gritty futures where science is pushing the boundaries of what humanity should be pushing.
You could also make connections to Shawshank Redemption's themes, because there's like Christianity in prison, the free will with music. Like there's parallels to be made there also with Shawshank Redemption with its themes and this movie's themes.
I feel the movie has influence, has impact. It's
just not obvious.
Yeah. I mean, I still think the movie it should stay on the list.
Oh, definitely.
It's not coming off. I think its impact is felt. I really do think that being in the top 10 films we've seen is good. I want it to be a little bit higher, in terms of like just like how good and deep and like full the movie is, but I understand that
it's a complete package you gotta look at here.
Yeah, it's a package deal. So that's, I guess, where we come down to. Any other thoughts on the movie?
Well, I think
you're about thought out.
About done up.
Well, if you're about done up, you can catch us next week to finally watch the actual greatest film ever made, according to Actors Polls, and that is Tootsie, starring Dustin Hoffman, directed by Sidney Pollack, and it's a comedy. It's something completely different. Anything about this movie? Anything about this one?
About Tootsie? No, other than apparently, what's his name is in drag in this movie?
Dustin Hoffman.
Apparently Dustin Hoffman's in drag in this movie, and he's fucking amazing.
And I can't
apparently he's like it's like the best performance fucking ever.
And I've never seen it, so I'm really excited to give it a watch. But if you wanted to catch that, you can check us out anywhere you can find podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, so on and so forth, and our YouTube channel, The Film Vault. That is The Film Vault on YouTube. Like, comment, tell us we're awful, because we're awful and proud of it. And, yeah, any last words, Randy?
If you had any yarbles, Dean, you would have argued for this movie to go higher on the list.
Viddy here, you yobbly motherfucker. I don't fucking know.
Ballsy motherfucker, I guess. Yeah, that works. Yeah,
all right.
Sure. All right. Your NASDAQ is up to par. You passed your NASDAQ 101 course.
Jesus Christ. All right, everybody. Y'all have yourself a good week.
Have a good time.